Good evening, Western Standard viewers, and welcome to Hannaford, a weekly politics show of the Western Standard. How would you like it if the government of Canada was able to decide how you spent your money? They already decide how much you get to keep, as anybody now filling out their income tax knows. But what if you went to buy gasoline and found you couldn't, even though you had money in the bank, because you'd reached your limit for gas purchases? The Bank of Canada is working on a system that would allow that, and here to talk about what it means for you is Ben Klassen from the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Well, thank you for having me, Nigel.
Oh, you're welcome. Great to see you. Ben, you've just written a big report on this, and we're going to talk about it. But first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Hannaford is sponsored by New World Precious Metals, based right here in Calgary. Years of inflationary money printing and rising debt have decimated the average savings of people. Only gold and silver have actually managed to maintain their gains. New World Precious Metals offers unique platforms to help protect and grow your hard-earned wealth with gold and silver. Check them out at newworldpm.com. newworldpm.com. Ben, your report is called Central Bank Digital Currency. What it is and how it could impact your privacy, security, and autonomy. And you clearly want us to be concerned, and frankly, I am. So, is central bank digital currency some kind of cryptocurrency? What's wrong with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nigel. It's a question that a lot of people have. What is the difference between a cryptocurrency or a stable currency versus a central bank digital currency? So the main difference between these two, while central bank digital currencies could operate on a technological level in largely the same way as cryptocurrencies or stable currencies, the main difference is that cryptocurrencies and stable currencies are privately owned and operated and not regulated, whereas a central bank digital currency is regulated by a central bank. And so that means that the central bank could have, depending on the structure, could have access to all your banking information, to all your account information, but also to any and all of your transactions. So if you go and pick up a burger from McDonald's, or you go and put gas into your car somewhere in the middle of Alberta, the government would know about it. Or if you make a donation to a nonprofit organization, for example, or a certain political party, depending on the structure,
or a trucker, maybe.
Or a trucker, exactly, for that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, so again, it depends on the structure, but the fear and the concern here is that a central bank digital currency is regulated by the federal government, or the central Bank of Canada, and they would be able to see everything and anything and control you in a large way in that way. So,
okay, well, obviously this is a very concerning development. It's actually been gestating for a few years now, but you have to ask, who wants this? Because I don't, we were just in a pub talking about this, and as you look around the room, you don't see a bunch of people who are thinking, this would be so much easier if I had central bank digital currency. So it's not coming out of the public.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants this, and why do they want it?
That's a great question. Central bankers, politicians, and other people who are for this, they are advertising central bank digital currencies as a way to entice people as this is something that would really increase your efficiency in monetary transfers, or make your life easier in one way or another. So they're citing efficiency, where you send someone an e-transfer and that is settled instantaneously, whereas nowadays you sometimes need to wait up to 30 minutes for it to settle, or you pay your grocery bill and it's on your credit card, but it stays on there for 3 days before it is finally finalized the transaction.
I don't consider that a disadvantage.
So that's exactly it. So for most people, it is not really a disadvantage because it doesn't really affect us on a day-to-day basis. It could maybe affect us in terms of sending money to other people in other countries, where then delays are sometimes up to 3 days. And so CBDCs are being pitched as a way for instantaneous transfer settlements. But they're already building new technologies like real-time rail that will make instantaneous money transfers possible.
So, Ben, whose idea was this, and to whose advantage is it?
Yeah, great question. So the average consumer, the average Canadian taxpayer is obviously not really asking for this. The current digital money system that we have works just fine. We tap with our phones, we tap with our credit cards, and we have all the comfort and ease necessary.
Right.
So there is obviously someone who does want it, and for a certain reason, right? And so central bankers talk about all the conveniences that it would provide, including safety, inclusivity. But take, for example, inclusivity, which they say will help to have more those people who do not have a bank account currently, they will be able to transfer money digitally, whereas now if you don't have a bank account, then you can only use cash. But the reality is that might apply to Nigeria, where up to 30% of people don't have a bank account. But in Canada, more than 99% of people have a bank account already. So that tells us that there's a certain other agenda behind it.
It's solving a problem we don't have.
Exactly.
So,
for the consumer, while they're selling it as something really good for the average Canadian taxpayer, the things that they're selling it on don't really apply to us, including efficiency of monetary.
Okay, so then let's go to the nightmare scenario, and this has got to do with control. Mm-hmm. You were an observer, I think, of the convoy back in 2022, and you saw that the government had the power to take extreme measures, such as freezing bank accounts. So this is something they've been able to do for decades, by the way. It's not like we first discovered this in 2022. But it was the first time we saw it deployed against an identifiable group of people. Now, we have a government at the moment. Hopefully it won't last too much longer, but let's say it does. And they have a climate change agenda. And so they want to be able to persuade people to spend their money here and not there. Mm-hmm. You're spending too much on gasoline, Mr. Klassen.
Yeah.
What has this got to do with the government's wish to control how we spend our money?
Yeah, that's good. And this is one of the most concerning aspects of CBDC.
Do you think this is why they're doing it?
It very much could be, because if there's not very little to no benefits for the consumer, then there must be some sort of other reason why they're pursuing it. And the concern is that they're pursuing it for reasons that would benefit the government and central bank, because a CBDC would increase their power and increase their control over the monetary system, over the economy, over individual consumer spending. So if you use a CBDC, depending on the structure, but likely they will be able to, in some structures, they will be able to use, they see every single thing that you spend your money on, whether you bought gasoline, whether you donated to a certain political party, or you flew to Jamaica for a vacation. They will know your spending habits. They will know, everything about you. And so they could use this in a way to punish you. So, for example, if you donated to the wrong political party, or if you bought too much fuel that contributed to too much CO2 in the environment, well, then the next thing you know, you have maybe a bad credit with them. And so, they could then restrict your spending on certain things. But one of the fears that I have with this is, it's not that the average Canadian consumer will be that their transactions will be monitored or restricted. My fear is more that they will monitor the transactions of certain leaders in the Canadian society. So, for example, during the truckers' convoy, there was only a handful of leaders, and so if you effectively eliminated their possibility from conducting any kind of economic transactions, so if cash was no longer available, which CBDCs likely will create an incentive to remove cash, and so if cash was no longer available and private cryptocurrencies were no longer allowed, which governments have already, central banks have already said that some of their policy goals that they would like to achieve, cash and private cryptocurrencies actually stand in the way because it's a way around for actually using the CBDC. And so if these other currencies were not allowed and only CBDCs were allowed, then they could effectively stop any leaders from being able to rise up and organize a huge protest or even if it's online or whatever, they freeze your bank account, stop allowing you to conduct transactions. And
Ben, what you have just said is going to have some of our listeners leaning forward in their seats. You just floated the possibility that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies could become illegal. I think that's what you said. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Now, currently, Bank of Canada and most banks, central banks in the Western world, are saying that no, a CBDC will operate in tandem with cash and other currencies, and so I think that might very well be in the beginning.
Okay, so I was going to say, why do you think that Bitcoin is is in any danger at all?
Well, just
for one thing, the United States government wants all the Bitcoin it can get for its strategic reserves. Surely they would be a force to maintain Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
The Bank of Canada, maybe.
Well, yeah. So while there are certain central banks and certain politicians that do see the value in cash and do see the value in Bitcoins and other private currencies, there are other governments that have already said that cryptocurrencies are a danger to monetary policies, to their monetary sovereignty, as they put it. And so, for example, China is one of the countries that has talked about, we don't actually like some of these cryptocurrencies. We want people to use our own monetary system, including the CBDC that they've already implemented in their country. And so if CBDCs allows government to really usurp a whole lot more power and have way more power over the economy, over individual consumer spending, and if that helps them to push through their own agendas, which they think are great political agendas, if other currencies stand in the way, then there is an incentive. Doesn't mean that they will, but there is an incentive to remove other currencies. And so if eventually 95% of Canadians use CBDCs, well, then they might be like, okay, no one uses cash, no one uses cryptocurrencies, really, everyone is okay with the CBDC, so why don't we just make that illegal? Because criminals use cryptocurrencies to evade taxes and to engage in money laundering or finance terrorism or whatever all. And so then they'll be like, well, we're just removing cash and private digital currencies because we want to eliminate crime. And then the average Canadian might be like, well, I mean, I use CBDCs, it seems to be working fine, and I think eliminating crime is a great idea, so yeah, why not? A few people might still be left, no, like there's value in cash, but we need a whole huge portion of Canadians to really see the value in these things so that central banks are not able to remove these.
So it's a variation of the old argument that, well, I've got nothing to hide, so let them look. No, they don't have a right to look.
Yeah.
And so how long has this been going on? And where is it poised right now? Like, are we going to be getting digital bank currencies next week? But how long has it been going on?
Yeah, good question. So the idea, the technology that central bank digital currency is most likely going to be based on is called DLT, distributed ledger technology. And that has been around since the later 1990s. Central banks have been, I believe, exploring central bank digital currencies in the beginning of 2010 2010s or into the middle of 2010s. I don't know exactly when the Central Bank of Canada started exploring CBDCs, but in 2020, in the beginning of 2020, they announced that they were already exploring it. So they didn't say how long they had been. And so 3 years later, or 3.5 to 4 years later, in October or November of 2023, they released a public survey that showed that, surprisingly, 79%, something like that, of Canadians are against central bank digital currencies. They're even against the central bank researching a CBDC, never mind implementing one. And so a year later, in November of last year, 2024, the Central Bank of Canada announced that they're going to put their efforts on pause. But I mean, pause is a very ambiguous term. What does that even mean? Like,
Are we doing this because the rest of the world is doing it?
Well, when they paused it in 2024, they said, we're going to pause it, but we're going to continue to monitor what's going on around the world, and in case a CBDC will ever be needed. And so, yeah, that's kind of the argument that, this seems the direction that everything is going in, and they seem to they tend to make the argument that, a CBDC really is inevitable, and we should stay ahead of the game so that we're not left behind, and so that we're not left behind and eventually have a huge economic downfall to pay for that or whatever. We need to stay ahead of the ball game, and
So we are, in fact, operating as part of a world system that is changing. And the challenge, if you happen to work for the Bank of Canada, is to bring Canadians along, perhaps slowly, so that nobody gets scared and kicks the stable to pieces. Is that about the size of it?
Yes, yeah. So banks are saying that we need to stay ahead of the ball game in terms of developing these. But the reality is that there's so much more development that can be done in the current banking system. So, for example, CBDCs, a key thing that they're supposed to address is efficiency, instantaneous money transfers, peer-to-peer. It doesn't interact with banks. But a new technology that is...
banks like that, by the way. They get a cut every time I send a check or an email transfer.
Exactly. That's a good question. And this is my opinion that big banks, they're actually fine with it because they know that, similar to what Professor Richard Warner has talked about, a British professor on economics and finances, he has warned that CBDCs will have a detrimental effect to small banks. And so then that will increase the power of big banks because more people are going to be banking with big banks. And so big banks, I don't think actually mind that. We are going to get way more new clients. Smaller banks, they're increasingly worried about it. And and we are already seeing a trend in that direction. I think in the UK, there were 10,000 small banks that had closed within the last 10 to 20 years or something like that, as Richard Warner warns. And CBDC is only going to increase the speed in that direction.
So as we're not quite out of time yet, but we're getting close, let's just sort of bring this together. What we have is the Bank of Canada researching a system of electronic currency which doesn't necessarily involve the private banks, that could be a conduit for the federal government to pay people and presumably to receive money from people, that they control entirely, and that they are, although they may not actually impose restrictions upon how you spend the money that's in your digital currency account, they could. So if there was an objective that they were trying to meet, if they were combating inflation or if they were combating deflation, the reverse, they would perhaps be able to make it hard for you to hold cash, encourage you to spend it, contrary the other way. Or if they're trying to meet climate change objectives, then under this system, they have the power to say, well, we're allowing you this much money to purchase fuel for the month, and when you're there, that's it. You can't do any more. They remove the power of choice.
Yeah,
this is not necessarily what they're saying the system will do.
Yeah,
but as an observer and writer of this excellent report, you are saying there's nothing stopping them to do it. And of course, we have the example of China and its social credit system, where actually there is a very direct connection between the behavior of the citizen and the rewards offered by the state system.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on the road to Beijing.
We're on the road to Beijing.
Really.
Yeah.
That is okay. This is a very interesting and timely report, Ben. Obviously, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom is an organization that we here at the Western Standard pay a lot of heed to and a lot of respect to. Where can people read your report?
Yeah, so the report is available on our website at jccf.ca. And so if you go under the Educations tab in Reports there, you will find this report highlighted there. So
okay, and I'm just going to conclude by quoting from the the foreword of the abstract of your report, in which you say the increased popularity of cryptocurrencies and other digital payment systems has prompted central banks around the world, including the Bank of Canada, to explore central bank digital currencies. So this is driven by the alternative money. And then you go on and you say these currencies could threaten Canadians' privacy, security, autonomy, financial independence, and their access to economic participation. Mm-hmm. Could also usher in a cashless economy, thereby removing access to the intangible but important benefits that cash provides. Mm-hmm. My last question to you is this. My fear is that in the years to come, years that I may not see but that you may, this will somehow be integrated with digital identity, which has already been under preparation in Canada for 25 years, started in BC, around about the turn of the century. Most people don't really think much about it, but your BC or your Alberta ID card will link you to the federal system. You can go in and do Service Canada stuff with a provincial card. That's getting fairly close to having a one-size-fits-all identity card. Add in this so that you need one piece of plastic, or maybe not even one piece of plastic, but one code on your phone. You hold it up, and your whole financial life is there before you, and anybody else behind on the other side of the wall who cares to look. Is this the society that we are? I mean, I know sometimes we love to look into the dark glass and see disaster and everything else, but and it may not be so, but could it be so?
Well, it certainly could lead there. I don't think that it would go there very fast, although it could go there quicker than we may think, as evidenced by the truckers' convoy and freezing of bank accounts there. But yeah, what digital IDs do, they essentially identify so much of information about yourself, your health status, whether you're vaccinated or where you live or where you like to spend your vacation time and so on. And so now you add CBDCs to that. Now they have access to all your spending habits, where you invest your money, the places that you donate to. So together, they now have a very complete picture of who you are, what you support, what you think, and so on. And so once they have that, and add to that the power to determine when, where, and what you spend your money on, and in a thing that is called the programmability of central bank digital currencies. So now they are effectively able to determine who you are, what you support, and then they have the power to then determine what you can spend your money on, or freeze your account, or even eliminate your money at the push of a button. And so this will be a very powerful tool. And we are already seeing that, as you mentioned, with the social credit system in China, where this is already at play. So
can we assume that the Justice Center is going to continue to keep an eye on this for us?
Oh, we're going to continue to keep fighting for Canadians' rights and freedoms. So
Ben Klassen, thank you very much for coming in. Here is the report, Central Bank Digital Currency, what it is and how it could impact your privacy, security, and autonomy. What is that website again?
jccf.ca, go to Educations tab, and then in Reports. That's where you'll find it highlighted.
Ben, thank you very much for joining us today. For the Western Standard, I'm Nigel Hannaford.
What does success mean to you? Peace of mind? Financial freedom? Generational wealth? What do you see in your future? Investing in gold and silver can help you get there. Through our trading partners, New World Precious Metals offers safe, affordable, secure international accounts to help you meet your unique financial goals. Connect with one of our experienced team members. Invest in gold and silver today.